Welcome into a 2025 Dynasty Rookie Mock Draft, and here at FTR, in addition to looking at the advanced stats, we like to use film breakdowns for our players as well and give our prospect analysis. Dynasty is all about talent, and when evaluating prospects, we absolutely believe that you need to watch the film and use that in addition to the stats to help cross that bridge. But we're going to dive right into this mock draft. It's going to be a Superflex format. It's going to be one round, and we'll hop right into our one-on-one. Even in a Superflex format, we are going to have Tedor McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. This is my personal opinion. I know a lot of other people in the community aren't going to agree with this. It feels like everyone is saying you have to go Ashton Genty at the 101, and even a few other members of the FTR team disagree with this as well. But I'll first give the case for McMillan as a prospect, and then kind of explain the deeper meaning on why I'm not taking Genty at the 101 this year. McMillan, though, is fantastic as a prospect. I don't think anyone's arguing with that. As a sophomore, he broke out, catching 90 passes for 1,402 yards, 10 touchdowns. The thing I love most about him is he's just so translatable to the NFL level. He has the size that NFL teams absolutely love and gives him a ton of upside to truly break fantasy football. 6'5", 212 pounds, but he moves gracefully. The difference between McMillan and a guy like Drake London, Mike Evans, is McMillan is, I would go as far as to say, an elite yak receiver. And when you think 6'5" and yak, those things don't typically come together. I think McMillan is truly a special combination, and he could be one of the better receivers we've seen in a long time. Now, ridiculous catch radius. He does round his routes at times, which is really the only knock you have against him. But again, being that tall, he wins by being a big outside receiver. He's fantastic. He reminds me of a Drake London, Mike Evans. Now, looking at things from a holistic standpoint, the reason I have McMillan over Genty is I see them as similar prospects. I know a lot of people see, McMillan as a little bit risky and Genty as a can't-miss prospect. But I think McMillan is as good of a prospect, if not, potentially could be even better than Genty. I know as crazy as that sounds, but I don't really see a big difference between the two. And if I'm getting two comparable players, I would rather take the wide receiver in Dynasty because we see the market value for them. The wide receiver 4 is about equivalent to the running back 1. Just have longer careers. Even though I do like to play Dynasty in 3 to 4 year windows, it is important to look for that long-term value because that is what people are going to care about. Diving into the 102, though, we will go with Ashton Genty. A lot of people's 101. I mean, if you want to put him at the 101, same tier for me. I really can't argue with it. 2024, obviously, had almost 2,500 yards, 29 touchdowns, and he showed out as a pass catcher as well in 2023. 43 receptions for 569 yards. I don't think he is necessarily an elite pass catcher when I turn on the film, like, a guy like Bijan Robinson, which is why I'm a little hesitant. Bijan, I saw the uber athleticism. I saw the incredible hands as a pass catcher. I mean, Genty is a fine pass catcher, but definitely all of his, plus ability and strengths are as a pure runner, which I think my only concern is he might just be a little better for NFL teams, and they might not really try and utilize him in the passing game as much. But either way, I think he should be a 3-down, bell cow at the NFL level. Turning on the film, showed fantastic contact balance, very quick, has elite vision. I mean, there's really no knocks I have on him in his overall profile. Again, just a running back, but we will see how the running back landscape does change with a fairly strong class. Now, heading over to the 103, I'm going to have my quarterback 1 in the class, Shedeur Sanders, extremely polarizing, and I have him as my next quarterback in the next tier. I do like Sanders more than a lot of people, and I get people saying to fade quarterback this year, but when you turn the tape with Sanders, I think there's so many things to like about him. He's a very smart football player, great IQ, very athletic. He doesn't necessarily try to run a ton, which, you would love to see a little bit more for fantasy football, but he can create from outside the pocket. He's athletic. He can run at times. He's probably going to be that quarterback that gives you 20, 30 rushing yards a game. He picks you apart from the pocket. I mean, the dude absolutely has the best accuracy in the class and will be a guy with elite ball placement the second he steps onto an NFL field. Delivers strikes to all 3 levels of the field. hit you in the middle, did a great job delivering to the outside of the field as well. So everything on tape really popped out to me. The thing that hurts Sanders when you turn on the tape, though, is he takes way too many bad sacks. And while he's very careful with the ball through the air, he does tend to be sloppy in the pocket. It's really just everything within the pocket. He has to have better pocket presence. He can't take as many sacks to get a little better, but you put him behind a rough situation in the NFL where he's not really going to be getting a ton of help, and that issue is compounded. That does scare me a little bit. On the field, though, I think the production has been fantastic. Produced as a junior with about 3,200 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 3 picks. And as a senior, he improved that to 3,900 yards, 35 touchdowns, even though the interceptions did go up to 8. Now at 4, we are going to have Cam Ward, my quarterback, too. I think he's in the same tier as Sanders. And honestly, I think Ward has more upside than Sanders. I think that's honestly something most people can agree with if you turn on the film or even just look at the stats. The issue with Ward, and I still like him a lot, is, man, he turns the ball over way too much. Now, that's one of his biggest strengths and also greatest weakness. Out of the pocket, the man is elite. I mean, he does a great job. You know, Sanders and Ward are completely different because Ward can make almost every throw outside the pocket, changes arm angles, will give you that incredible arm talent where Sanders doesn't necessarily display that, elite arm talent all the time. He makes up with it more with his accuracy. But Ward is not accurate all the time, can be very inconsistent, and just way too often, I see him make dumb reads. I see him throw across his body, which works in college, not going to work at the NFL level, and the uber confidence is something you definitely want a quarterback. You have to be confident to succeed at the NFL level. But it just is rough, man, when that uber confidence causes him to throw bad picks where he's throwing across his body that are even getting intercepted in college. Now, he can get away with some of that stuff because he has arm talent and he's competing against college kids, but if he doesn't make changes to his game and tries to win that way consistently at the NFL level, he's going to be in for a rude awakening. With that said, though, I think he has, like I said, a higher ceiling than Sanders. He's a great athlete, has a fantastic NFL arm. The arm talent is the best in the class, in my opinion, and also has dual threat ability. I think he does give you a little more on the ground than Sanders, which is always important for fantasy football. Dropping down to 5, though, we are going to have Luther Burden. And I always had Tedder McMillan over Luther Burden coming into this year, but I'm not really taking away or changing too much off of this down year. Coming into 2023, he broke out as a sophomore. 86 catches, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, and that dropped off in 2024. But the Missouri team as a whole was just a mess. Market share numbers were pretty similar. Just the offense was incredibly poor. So the thing you want to know about Burden is McMillan is a alpha X receiver. Burden's going to be a slot guy at the NFL level, and he creates separation well. He has fantastic hands and also great in the yak department. The issue I have with Burden, and I've always had with him, is when you look at him on the film, he struggles to win against press. He doesn't have elite speed. The speed is good, but not great. As a slot receiver, that's going to be more of the Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is, possible. It's definitely a ceiling, but at the same time, we all know that, slower slot receivers, not all of them are going to turn out like Amon-Ra, so there's definitely a little bit more risk with Burden than a guy like McMillan, in my opinion, and that's why the two are so far apart. Dropping down to 6, though, we are going to have Travis Hunter. I did a video breaking down him fully on the FTR channel. If you guys want to check that out, it will be on the channel, and also drop the link in the comments. But with Hunter, he is one of the most talented receivers that I've watched in a long time. The question with him, and you don't need to look at the film to answer this question, is he going to play wide receiver or cornerback at the NFL level? Now, in my opinion, in the video, I broke down that I really believe that he will play wide receiver in the NFL because of the money. The NFL is a business. The wide receivers get paid more. The top guys are getting paid more than the top corners. And also, the wide receivers are more likely to get second contracts. Overall, they will make more money in their career than cornerbacks. And while Hunter, I'm sure he'd love to do both. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries it for a year and then switches to wide receiver. I just don't see a way where he ever gives up becoming a wide receiver to be a full-time cornerback. But it's obviously going to change. We can only control what we can control, and that's part of the process. And that's looking at him as a wide receiver. Unreal stat line, 92 catches, 1,152 yards, and 14 touches as a junior. Elite athlete, fantastic yak, the best hands that I've seen in a long time. The ball skills are unbelievable. Now, the only weaknesses you really have against him is the uncertainty, the polish in his game, specifically the route running, but that's to be expected. If he does become a full-time receiver, I mean, the sky is the limit because he's never had 100% of his time to hone in those skills. So he could be dangerous, and those weaknesses are very fixable versus some of the other prospects in this class. Now at 7, I have my running back 2 in the class, Trayvon Henderson. I did another video on him, breaking him down. If you guys want to check that out as well, more in depth. He's my running back 2 over Amari Hampton and Caleb Johnson. I think the two are very similar, but the reason why I like Henderson is 1, broke out as a freshman running for 1,248 yards, 6.8 yards per carry, and also showed a lot in the receiving game, catching 27 passes for 312 yards. With Henderson, he just gives you so much juice. I can just tell, very soft hands, great pass catcher, plus size as well. Like, he can carry a 3-down workload. He doesn't necessarily use his size the best in between, zone gaps, but he can run a guy over. His yards per after contact is actually pretty solid. He's just not as physical. Like, he can run a guy over, but he doesn't have necessarily elite one-on-one moves. Trucking a guy outside of, running a guy over. Honestly, his juke and spin moves and everything else like that aren't anything super, super special. And like I said, when he's not as physical, I kind of mean that more in, he doesn't know how to use it more in up the middle. He's more of an outside runner, which can always pose problems in NFL. And also just inconsistent vision. I think at times, he definitely shows the willingness to be patient and try and hit a hole. But there's definitely times where, he misses a hole where he probably should have gone. And I think maybe a guy like Hampton and Caleb Johnson are a little bit more nuanced as a pure runner. At 8, though, we are going to have Emeka Egbuka. Been a big fan of him ever since his sophomore season, where he had 74 catches for 1,151 yards and 10 touchdowns. Got to see him in person, and I think he's as good as advertised. Very good slot receiver, crisp routes, very good hands. I don't think the upside is there as much for Egbuka. Kind of reminds me, he's like Luther Burden with less juice in the sense that Amon-Ra St. Brown is more so his ceiling, but I think he could definitely be a very good slot receiver in the NFL. Similar concerns, he's a little slower than Burden, in my opinion, when I turn the tape. I think he has adequate speed. Doesn't have a fantastic catch radius, though, unlike Burden. I think Burden's is a bit better. We'll go down to 9. We have Omarion Hampton. Touched on him a little bit, but broke as a junior, running for 1,600 yards, 5.9 yards per carry, and 15 touchdowns. Also showed out, in the receiving game with 38 catches for 378 yards. But this is why we look at the film. I think that pass catching stats are fairly misleading. The hands are, it's just a lot of checkdowns, dump offs, which I mean is very good. You do want your receiver to not be a total dud in the receiving game if they're a fantastic runner. I mean, Hampton's a bowling ball, good burst, good contact balance. Hands and home run speed are two of the things I like to look for fantasy football. Obviously, PPR, the hands. Also, home run speed, just punching in those long touchdowns. The ability to swing fantasy games your way in a single rush. It's just the main difference between Hampton and Henderson. Both are fantastic players. I see Caleb Johnson at 10 in a similar light. Two are very similar. I mean, I also think he has home run speed. I think it's a little better than Hampton's, but I think he's a worse pass catcher than Hampton as well. Struggles to get outside at times where, Henderson struggles to run up the middle. I think Caleb Johnson is more a north to south runner versus, a guy with a ton of juice. With that said, has very good vision, fantastic physicality, and size. Again, my concern with Johnson is more that he'll be a better NFL asset than fantasy asset. And at 11, we are going to have our third quarterback, Jalen Milroe. The tools with Milroe are off the charts. And now, as I'm recording this, we don't know if Milroe is going back to school or not. I wouldn't be surprised if he does declare to try and take advantage of a weak quarterback class. But he's a long way to go. He's a guy that definitely needs to sit for a year. I mean, he just had a pretty good sophomore season, 2,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, 6 picks. Also, unbelievable rushing year that season, 719 yards and 20 touchdowns, but had a really big fall off his junior year. All those stats went down. The issue is unbelievable traits, 6'2", 225, fantastic athlete, great arm strength. I mean, as a mold, I think he's going to get a chance to be a late first-round pick, early second-round pick because the tools as just a raw prospect are better than Ward, are better than Sanders. Just so much inconsistency, sloppy mechanics, inconsistent accuracy, holds the ball very long as well, slow processing, too many turnovers. I'm kind of just describing everything that a quarterback needs to be successful. He struggles at right now, but there's certain things you can't teach. The thing and reason why, even with all those weaknesses, I'm willing to take Milroe at the 111 is because he kind of profiles similar to a guy like Jalen Hurts. I know not every quarterback is going to be Jalen Hurts, but when you have the upside, and here's where I'm willing to take my swing on upside, in the late first round, when you have a chance to get Jalen Hurts, who's a top 3 dynasty asset, at least top 5 right now, you absolutely swing for that, even if Milroe is a dud in the NFL. At 12, though, we are going to round things out with my favorite prospect, Harold Fannin Jr. Now, the man's listed at 6'4", 230, and put up 117 catches, 1,555 yards, and 10 touchdowns as a tight end. He led the nation in a lot of these stats. I don't care if you're playing against Bishop Sycamore. It is impressive to put up those kind of numbers in college football as a tight end. I understand Fannin is closer to a receiver than a tight end. And, I mean, the knock against him is he cannot block. He tries, so maybe he can get better in the NFL, but right now it's just really not good. But I see him becoming a part of an offense. I mean, even if Fannin was a wide receiver, I would take him here. He just is that special. The size-speed combination is just out of this world. The hands, the route running, I mean, it is. He looks like he is a wide receiver. So even if you want to categorize him as a wide receiver, I'd be fine with taking him here. The thing is, you get a chance to potentially get a guy that's going to be a power slot eligible for your tight end position in fantasy football. And tight end, getting that kind of cheat code, getting a Travis Kelce-esque cheat code where Kelce doesn't do a whole lot of blocking, but they play him in the slot. I think that's how we're going to see Fannin used in the NFL. And if you get the chance to be early to the next, Travis Kelce is obviously the one, crazy outcome, but at the 112, that's a shot I'd like to take. And I think because of just how talented he is as a receiver, there will be a floor and place for him in the NFL no matter what. Even if he can't block, even if it's tough to find, the situation. I will say, it's going to depend on what he measures in at. That's going to change the ranking a lot for me, and also situation. If he is in a place where I don't think he can get utilized, I may have to move him down. But the upside, I mean, the man has elite size, elite speed, fantastic hands, fantastic route running. Right now, Fannin is my tight end 1, even though I still have him in the same tier as a guy like Tyler Warren, actually my tight end 3, and a guy like Colston Loveland, a guy my tight end 2. But that's going to wrap up the first round. Let me know if you guys want me to go deeper. We will be going into 2 rounds next time. I'm also going to be doing some more rankings. Going to be doing a 1 QB format in the future. But let me know what you guys think of this kind of breakdown, more so using the traits and putting some film in the background as well. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's personally the best way that I like to compete and prepare for my Dynasty leagues. But let me know any questions you have down in the comment below. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more future content. And I'll see you guys in the next one.